So there's things that I figured out over time, and there's things I still don't quite understand. I think an NDE is a lifetime learning. It's been teaching me lessons my entire life. So when I was 17, just before my 18th birthday, here in the United States, we go to high school up until we're 18. So I was a senior in high school before going off to college, and I I was in a show. So I grew up as a kid at a very early age. I came from a very working class family, and my family didn't really know the arts. But I was the kid that was the last born, and I was really into the arts. I was really into going to museums. My family didn't even know what to do in a museum. Like, I wanted to see plays. My parents had never even gone to see a play, right? I love movies and I love performance and I love music and all that type of stuff. My grandfather was a fill-in banjo player in vaudeville. So this is way back in the days, 100 years ago, right? Vaudeville was the entertainment of the day. We didn't have TV, there was radio, and there was vaudeville, and he played the banjo. And when they needed a banjo player, he would jump in sometimes. And for some reason, that always excited me. That resonated with me. This idea of being in these vaudeville shows. And I don't know if you know about vaudeville shows, but they're like sketches, kind of like a Saturday Night Live in a way, where you have maybe somebody singing, maybe somebody's dancing, maybe somebody's doing magic tricks, maybe somebody else is doing a contortionist act, or maybe there's a comedian, whatever. And I just loved that form of entertainment. So when I was 17, there was a vaudeville house in my neighborhood, and they actually did vaudeville shows with the evil villain with the mustache, and you booed and hissed when he came on the stage. And they called it the Red Hot Mama, the big voluptuous lady that was wearing a corset and very sexy, that whole thing. I just was in love with that. And I auditioned to be in a show, and I got in. And I was only 17, and my parents were very protective of me. And that opening night weekend, the show was a really great success. It was quite fun. There was an after party after the show, and my parents said I couldn't go. And I was very, very angry. And so that anger is something I'm still learning from. I was very angry because I was the good kid. My brother was sort of the black sheep of the family. I did what my parents said, and I felt like I was almost an adult. My 18th birthday was a couple months away, weeks away, and why wouldn't they trust me? But I was a good kid. I got on my motorbike. It was a Moto cane. You may know what those are. It was a European moped early on back in the day. And I had my little Moto cane, and I was driving home, and I that anger was really there. I was very much in my head thinking about, why don't my parents trust me, and how could they not let me go, and what do they think I'm going to do, all that type of stuff. And as I was driving into the suburbs, the show was in a little downtown area, and we lived out in the suburban, away from the city. And it was a 4-lane road, a big road that fed into the suburbs, and I was on that road. It was probably 10:30 or so at night. It's in the suburbs. Not a lot of cars are out. It's very quiet. There was a curve in the road where the road made a big S curve. And in that curve, there was a parked semi truck. And I was approaching that curve and the truck when, from out of nowhere, I didn't see anything until its lights went on, and it flashed in my rear view mirrors. So on the handlebars, there were some big mirrors. The lights flashed in those mirrors, and I realized that this car was going to hit me. And I had nowhere to turn. I had nowhere to go. I couldn't sneak around the semi truck. It was parked. The car was very close on my back end, and I just couldn't get around it. There was a sidewalk walk next to where the car was parked, but I wasn't very good at jumping curves. And there was a cyclone fence. Do you know those metal woven fences that they'll put around circuit security facilities and stuff like that? There's one of those fences right along the side of the street, and I really had nowhere to go. So in a split second, I decided to lay my bike down, and the person hit my back tire. My bike laid down. My consciousness jumped out of my body. So I ended up jumping out and watching my bike and watching my body. So I watched my bike hit the semi truck. I watched my body hit the semi truck. I watched the car drive away, and the bike and my body bounced out into the street. They hit and bounced out. And so I'm floating above the whole thing, watching as this is happening. And I remember thinking, wow, what a beautiful night this is. There was no anger, right? None of those feelings that I had just a few seconds ago were there. There was just this appreciation for this beautiful October, middle of October. It was the end of summer. We call it uh, like a it was a warm beginning of winter, right? Everything's cooling down. The night was cool, autumn fall day. The night was cool, but you could feel the heat radiating off the ground. So there was that it was just beautiful. I think there was a bright moon, and I just remember thinking how beautiful this place was, watching the moon in the sky and smelling the night air. I could smell. I remember very succinctly smelling the night, that dampness that was in the air, and feeling the heat coming off the ground, and just being in this awe of how beautiful the world was. While I'm looking down at my body, and I'm looking at my body, and I can see that my leg is twisted underneath me, and my body's really messed up. And I remember even thinking, ooh, I don't want to go back there. That's bad. I don't want to go in that. And then the next minute I was, or second or whatever, I was going down the tunnel. I did the proverbial tunnel. Not everybody does a tunnel, but I did the tunnel. And I was in a way shooting down this tunnel. So I was like a bullet going through this tunnel. And something that still intrigues me today is that the tunnel was corkscrewing, right? It wasn't just spinning like this, it was moving forward. So it was this forward movement where there was a rotation, but it was a forward rotation that was happening like a corkscrew kind of energy. I'm shooting down this tunnel as the energy is doing that. I could see this beautiful light spinning and circulating, this amazing, brilliant light. And then suddenly I was on the other side, wherever that is, I don't know, but I wasn't in the tunnel and I wasn't back where my body was. So I'm in this space. It's again absolutely beautiful. The closer I get to this place, the more my heart, as my consciousness, because I'm fully alert, my consciousness feels like it's expanding. I feel like I had there's so much love, there's so much beauty. Like the experience of being on the other side was pure bliss, absolute joy. There's not enough adjectives to describe how amazing it is on the other side. It is so amazing, beautiful, gorgeous, blissful, happy. It is I don't know any language that has enough adjectives to describe it. And so when I give talks, because I've given talks at keynote speaking and stuff like that all over the world, and one of the talks I give is to say that death was the best thing that ever happened to me. Right? I'm not recommending you remove yourself, you off yourself, and I am recommending that you enjoy this life because whatever you do here, when we die, it's the most amazing, beautiful, glorious experience. Look forward to it. Really, truly. I wonder what it'd be like for those who are listening, you, whoever. I get myself in this place quite often. I wonder what it's like in the moment right now to look at life, whatever's happening in your life, whatever pain you may be feeling physically, whatever anguish you may be in mentally, whatever upset about politics or your health or money or whatever it is. I wonder what it would be like to live knowing that you can't get it wrong and that what's waiting for you on this other side is pure joy. I wonder what decisions you might make. I know what decisions I make when I get to that place because I could be fearful. I could get stuck in the human drama. I could be worried. And when I remind myself, hey, you got nothing to worry about. Everything on that other side is pure love. There is nothing else but pure love. That's my experience. So I get there, I'm walking around, I'm feeling that expansive love, this just like painful bliss that I'm ecstatic experience. And while I'm bless you, and while I'm walking around, I'm curious because I still have my consciousness. I can see my body, I can see my clothing, I can see the space. The space is pure energy. I'm standing, but I can't really tell what I'm standing on. It's just pure light energy. I am aware I'm in a space, like there's walls and there's a ceiling and a floor. I can't see walls, ceiling, or a floor, right? It's just again pure energy, but I'm aware that I am held and that I am safe in this place and that it's a location, which is really interesting. Like you could put it on the map if there was a map. Okay. And I'm very curious. I start really thinking, well, where is everybody? I thought when you died, your dead relatives, your my great grandmother, my dog that died, I thought they would be there for me. And I'm not upset, but I'm curious. I'm just thinking, wow, where is everybody? Like, isn't there supposed to be a welcome or something? Right. And as I'm exploring this place, I turn around and I see someone. Now, this person, as I see them, it feels like my chest is being broken open. Literally, it's painful. It's an ecstatic pain. I don't know if we humans have ever really truly can feel that. On the other side, though, it literally feels like my sternum is busted open, my ribs are being splayed out, and there's my heart is exploding out of my chest. And again, it's this painful, ecstatic experience. And while this is happening, I'm thinking to myself, what the hell? Why am I feeling this experience? Why am I feeling this bliss or this joy for this other person that I don't recognize, that I don't know? And maybe it's God. Like, there's that experience. Maybe it's the goddess, maybe it's divine energy, maybe whatever it is, this love is so powerful. And my still conscious brain is thinking, who the hell are you? And why are you Asian? I'm obviously not. And I'm seeing this man, and he looks like Lao Tzu. Do you know, have you ever heard of Lao Tzu or
Yeah,
Fu Manchu?
I
These
have.
very,
Yeah.
so Lao Tzu means, it translates from what I understand, is as wise old man, right? And there's this old man, and he has the Fu Manchu mustache and the long, wispy beard, very stylized. He's wearing like a derby hat. He has on a tweed suit. Why I'm noticing this information, I still don't know. I could see the really thick tweed of his suit, the fabric. And I'm thinking, a thought pops into my head of Hong Kong, 1890. No idea. Maybe that's where he was from or where his clothing was. I have no idea. But I'm thinking all of this again as my heart is ripping out of my body. And there's this experience of pure love for this other human being. And again, the curiosity continues. And he appears the way that I like to describe it, that I think people understand, is if you ever saw a sci-fi movie or Star Wars, and there's a Princess Leia on the holograph or Obi-Wan Kenobi on the holograph. And you can see, you know who they are. You could hear them, you could see them. They have shape, they have form, they have the clothing. You can see all of that. And at the same time, they're translucent. There's like a translucent, clear, like energy. You could see through them or you could see them. Like there's that experience where they're projected in a way. That has always been fascinating to me because later I got a degree in quantum theory and theology. And to think that our world is a holograph, it's been said in science that we live right here, right now, in a holographic experience, right? And there I am on the other side viewing this person who appears to be a holograph. So I turn to him, I see him, we connect. This lasts for a while, feels like such a long time. And his comment to me is why are you here? You're not supposed to be here. And some of that anger starts to come in because I was feeling rejected or unloved, right? There's this blissful higher level experience, as well as there's some of this human experience happening at the same time. And that again is another important thing that I taken into my own private therapy practice and in my own life, right? This idea of a higher self and a human self existing at the same time. On the other side, there was the higher self first and the human self second, right? Here, there's the physical human self and then the higher self. And over there, I told this person, God, whoever it was, I gave them the double birdie. I don't know if it's safe to. I did that, and I told them to f off because I did not want to go back. I knew what my body, the condition of my body. I was not very happy as a kid. I never felt loved. I never felt accepted. I never felt, well, it's not that I never felt loved. I didn't feel loved as a teenager. I didn't feel accepted. I didn't feel like I was safe. I didn't feel like I had a home. Now, my family was wonderful, but I didn't fit in, right? I just didn't fit into this suburban community, right? I didn't fit into this sort of working class family that I was born into. I was the oddball in that family. And I didn't want to go back. And when he said I had to go back, that it wasn't my time, I got very angry. And within seconds of that experience, I was back floating over my body. And I had left that other side. I had left that beautiful, blissful energy. Now, I wasn't in pain. I was back kind of at the experience where I had jumped out of my body and watched all of it, right? Before my body even hit that semi truck, I was already out. So I was back in that place, sort of floating above my body. I watched the EMTs, the emergency vehicle, come. I watched two men get out of the vehicle. I watched them take a gurney out of the back of the vehicle. I watched one of them come over while the other one was preparing the gurney. He was checking for vital signs. Um, when when he was checking for those signs, like there was a hand on my neck, his face was like this close to my face. I was guessing he was trying to see if I was breathing, if he could hear a breath or feel a breath. Uh, and this still makes me laugh because I quickly jumped into my body and I opened my eyes and I told him to take me to the hospital, and my insurance card was in my back pocket. And doing that must have scared the crap out of him. I don't know if you guys know Winnie the Pooh or Tigger.
Yeah,
It's an
for
old,
sure. Yeah.
old cartoon. So Tigger, the cat. So Tigger jumps. Well, this man, he was a very big man. He jumped all fours. Like he's kneeling on the ground. He was at least 200 and something pounds. He went up in the air like a cat, like Tigger, just boing up in the air, which I thought even at the time was the funniest thing. I jumped out of my body. I watched them take my body, put it on the gurney, put it in the vehicle, close the doors of the vehicle, turn on the siren, and drive away. I watched that whole thing. I wasn't going to go into my body. I didn't want to be alive. I didn't want to go back. I would love the other side. And that's something we can talk about too, because I think it's common in people that have died at a younger age to have that yearning to go back. And so I didn't want to go back. And I remember thinking to myself, I guess this is how ghosts are made. Because I didn't want to go in my body and my body was torn up. And I was thinking before, like, what if the EMTs wouldn't have shown up and somebody would just driven across my body, pulverized it, right? What if that would have happened? I'm not on the other side, I'm not in heaven or wherever that place was. I'm not in physical form, but I'm floating around. And so I thought, well, this must be ghost. This must be what it's like to be a ghost. And I was very happy to stay that way. My next memory, I opened my eyes. I was in my body. I was looking up at the drop ceiling that you get at medical facilities, those horrible, ugly asbestos sort of tile drop ceilings. I was looking up at that and I was thinking, crap. I don't want to be here because I wanted to see that beautiful, white, energetic, amazing energy of the other side. And when I say white, I don't necessarily mean, I don't know how to describe it. If you've ever looked at a prism, like a glass prism, when the sun shines through it and you get that refracted light, like the rainbows that you see, all the colors that shine off of the crystal or the prism. That's very much what it was like. It was all light, and there was this dominant white energy, but there was every color that you could possibly imagine all happening at the same time. It was stunningly beautiful. So that's my death experience.
It's
Mhm.
so amazing. And one thing that I notice is that you're very angry before, so you weren't fitting into your life. And then you come back, you must have been even angrier,
Oh, I was pissed off.
that you were
Absolutely.
almost like given, this happy experience, this feeling of love, just
Mhm.
to have it taken away from you
Yes.
again.
Yes.
So that must have been horrendous. But what I want to get into first, because I definitely want to talk to you about how we deal with those feelings and how we deal with anger. But before that, what I'm noticing is that you've met Lao Tzu, which is a famous Chinese philosopher, but you didn't seem to know who he was when you met him. So
Right. So I
that's
don't know if I met Lao Tzu. I describe him as looking as like Lao Tzu, the wise philosopher, the wise old man. But I don't know if that was him. I just use that way of explaining what he looked like. I don't know who this person was. All I know is that I was obsessively, ecstatically in love with them. The only way I can imagine it is like if you ever saw an angel, like if you ever had that experience of maybe seeing an angel and that heavenly light, that heavenly form, that divine being, that this was my version of a divine being. I have no idea why. I have no idea why that I have the divine as showing up as Lao Tzu.
But have you ever thought afterwards, when I can imagine you've looked into him and tried to sort of reconcile what has happened, did you come to have any explanation as to why he would show up for you and not anybody else, say Shakespeare or
Right. Well, it wasn't my time, so it makes sense that the family wasn't there. One of the things I learned, and I have a very strong spiritual life now that's evolved from that experience. I'm a lay minister in the particular faith that I practice, and um, it one of the things I take away from my death experience is that accidents do happen. A lot of people in the spiritual community say there's no such thing as an accident. Everything has been planned out, everything happens. It happens for an absolute reason. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. And we all may be going to a particular point. In my life, I am going to end up at a particular place in time. How I get there is my free will, right? And if we have free will, there's billions of us running around, all making choices, all doing things, and we're going to bump into each other, right? There's going to be an accident, right? And maybe it was destined for me to eventually come to that place, and maybe it was an accident. The heaven or wherever it was obviously wasn't ready for me, right? It wasn't my time. They weren't ready for me. Now, could that be part of the divine plan that I was supposed to die and then I was supposed to get removed from there and that? Sure. And it doesn't feel right on a cellular level when I say that. What feels right on a cellular level is that there was an accident. Someone made a choice to hurt me, right? Someone made a choice to get in their car, to come behind my bike, to push my bike with their car. Somebody made a choice to do that. And I was the recipient of that anger, or I was a recipient of that abuse, or that whatever it was. I was that recipient. And this is another important thing that I learned, is that I was a victim to what this person did, but I'm not a victim to my life. Right. And I say one of the biggest parts of my healings was taking absolute unconditional responsibility. So I chose that accident. When I say I chose that accident, right, I can't be a victim anymore because I chose it, right? And then what I do with it is my choice. What I do after that, what I've done after that, right? Our culture, our world would encourage me to be a victim, to be upset, to be angry, to want punishment or justice, or to find this person. We never found the person. To find the person that did this to me. Um, it Our culture would encourage me to be in the pain and to have the pain and to feel sorry for myself and to be frustrated that what I wanted to be when I was 17 years old, I wanted to be a dancer. I was discovered as a dancer. I was on my way to being very successful as a dancer. I had the body, like there's basketball player bodies, there's football player bodies. Well, I had a ballerina body, I had a dancer's body, and I could have been a victim to that. And I could to this day even be a victim to that energy and that thinking. And I say, absolutely not. I am not a victim. And I'm not a victim to this experience because I chose it. And it's a very different energy and a very different way to heal when you say, oh, I chose this experience. I chose I'm a therapist now. So if I could get a client to actually firmly, truly believe that they chose their anxiety or they chose their family or they chose the abuse that they suffered as a child or they chose their tumor or they chose their trauma, when we choose actively like that, right, then we go back into the position of power, right? We're not a victim. We're not being walked on. We are in the experience of this is my life. This is my breath. This is my body. These are my thoughts. And I choose what I'm going to do next.
I absolutely love this frame of seeing things through, of not being a victim, of taking radical responsibility. And I cannot help but think that many people in your situation, would end up even years later telling me, how they should have been a dancer. That was what they were going to do. It would have been amazing. It would have led to this unbelievably rich life. And then now it's sort of an excuse for why they're not happy with their life because
Exactly.
this thing happened and then the dancer thing could not happen anymore because of that, which sort of wreak havoc on everything else. So I want to understand why that mentality of, well, to understand me, you have to go back to this event and see that's why I'm not happy now because this happened back then. How do we release that mindset? Because if I remember correctly, you were a very angry teenager at that
Oh.
point. You're very angry with your life, and then it was almost starting to get good, right? You were discovered as a dancer, so there was almost a gateway out of that angry place to something that you thought was going to be better for you. And then you're shown this love, you're taken away from it immediately. So you come back to a body that needs healing, a body that needs to,
Big time.
that just, yeah, is not a body that you had before, that needs a lot of patience, a lot of care. And then reconcile that with taking responsibility for it and not being the victim. So walk me through your mindset.
So this is a lesson that took a long time to learn. I unfortunately I didn't have somebody like me that would help or share that with me or support that. Everyone around me supported the victim, right? And how horrible and how sad and what a pity and that type of stuff. That's, what was what I was given, even the medical profession, right? I was told I'd never be able to walk again. If I could walk, that it would be difficult. I'd have to have some sort of support, whether it was a cane or a brace or a walker or a wheelchair or something like that. I've used all of those things. My 40th anniversary of my death was in October of 24. So that was my rebirth day. I like to call it that because it really is like a being reborn experience. And this didn't happen over, quickly. This happened over time. And so I eventually stopped feeling sorry for myself. I eventually started to recognize that, oh, wait, I create this life. I am co creating this life. I'm co creating this life with my body. I'm literally co creating this life with my cells, with my bones, with my muscles. I had to teach myself how to heal. I had to teach myself how to walk again, right? I had to go through these experiences. And I think people make that mistake to put healing on everybody else, to put healing on the doctor or the chiropractor or the whomever. They are only helping you, they aren't actually doing the healing because if you don't participate, you're probably not going to get better. We even know that scientifically. The people that believe they're going to heal, the people that see their healing, the people that just know it without a doubt that it's already happened, they heal. The people that don't, right? So how do you heal, or how did I teach myself this? Right? I taught myself to believe. I taught myself to create and co-create. I understood that I need to create with the cells of my body as much as I need to create with the people around me, right? My friends and family members. I need to talk to them. At one point, I had something go wrong with me a few years ago, and I called a couple of friends and I said, I need you to know my well-being. I need you to know that without a doubt. And some of them couldn't do it. Some of them were like, well, that happened and it's only logical and you're going to have this experience and it's so sad and I'm so sorry. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't be your friend right now. I love you, but I need someone who believes and holds that vision with me, right? So I can't be around that energy. I need to be around the energy. I need you, even if you just struggle with that. I need you to do it for me. I need you to see me as I see myself, which is whole, perfect, and complete, right? And that's a big part of my therapy practice. When people come to me as a therapist and I'm working with them, I see everybody I work with as whole, perfect, and complete. The anxiety or the addiction they're showing up with is an experience they're having, but it's not who they are, right? That trauma or that abuse that was done to them is an experience they're having. It is not who they are, right? And so to hold that vision and to know that vision with all of your body, to feel it, to see it, to smell it, to taste it, right? To actually create it, co create it with all the tools of your brain and the people around you, right? It's said in multiple religions that when two or more people are gathered together, right, there is the divine. So we're holding that consciousness together, even you and I right now. are holding that consciousness right now. And in that holding that consciousness, that all is love, right? Or whatever it is, that you are whole, perfect, and complete, no matter what you're physically, mentally, or spiritually thinking or feeling right now. Underneath that, the truth of you is that you are whole, perfect, and complete. And as we hold that consciousness, it takes form in the physical world. And so that was a big part of my learning. It took me a long time to learn that. And I didn't talk about my near death experience. I didn't talk about it for a long time because it wasn't okay in my family or in the world I lived in. This was 40 years ago. This type of stuff was considered really strange. So to talk about it, that was a big deal.
Oh, I can absolutely imagine. And especially after not feeling accepted for most of, your early life, what you end up learning is to not share things that might not be accepted and to not share parts of you that might not be accepted by people. So you tend to get really good at concealing things and you
Mhm.
end up thinking, well, if I don't talk about it and if I don't acknowledge it, then it probably will just go away by itself.
And it didn't. And living that way creates pain, right? Living that way, suppressing, shoving down, denying creates pain. So you're still co creating. You're co creating denial. You're co creating fear. You're co creating shame, right? There's this part of you that's suffering and you're shoving it down, right? So the co creation process is still happening. It's just being done in a very sad, negative way.
Absolutely. I think that's really true. And because you've mentioned, that we're not what has happened to us, we are having experiences, but we're not that. And we need to see ourselves as whole, perfect, and complete. And if I think of myself and everybody around me, I could not for the life of me point you towards a person, maybe yourself, that would see themselves as whole, perfect, and complete.
Well,
And
I hope after today's talk you can see that you are that. I'm
I
not my
will.
near death experience. It's an experience. It's not who I am.
I will definitely make steps, I think, in that direction, and I'll I'll learn to sort of get comfortable with the frame. That's what I can promise you. But what I wanted to get into is anxiety, which is a big part of your work. So a lot of us, and I think today especially, so many of us have anxiety. I have had it or have it, if you will. I try to think of it as, something that I'm prone to and something that's not good or bad. It just makes me a bit more aware, and I need to do some things to make sure that it's, at normal levels. But
That's good of you. That's very healthy. Good for you.
I want to understand what anxiety is, and your message is also that we need to love our anxiety. So why do you say that?
So my message is a little bit bigger in that we need to love all the parts of us that are suffering. What our habit is, what we're taught to do in the Western world and the Eastern world very much, is what we're taught to do is these parts of us that are suffering, we're taught to cut them out, to throw them away, to push them aside, to shove them down, to drug them, right? We're taught to hide them, to they're wrong and bad. They cannot be seen. And all that does is perpetuate the pain. So I explain it this way. I say, what if you, Sabrina, were my pain? What if you were the image of my pain? Right. And nobody else can see you, but I can see you. I see you very clearly. I see you right there. I see your face. I see how you feel. I see how you respond to things. Right. So you're this part of me that's suffering. And if I don't want to, if I said this to you, and I'm not going to direct it to you, but if I said what we would say to those parts, I'd say, I hate you, Sabrina. I can't stand you. I wish you just go away. I'm ashamed of you. I'm embarrassed of you. Right. Is that helping? If you're the part of me that's suffering and I speak to you that way, how would you feel?
No, no, I think it would, if I was the human form of it, I guess it would teach me to resist that, right? To show you why I'm here even more so because you're not seeming to get the message.
Exactly. Like if I was your pain and you did that to me, I'd be like that little chihuahua. I would just keep biting and barking at you. I just like no 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 no. I would not stop. I'd be like, you gonna treat me like that? I'm gonna really knock you down, right? Now, if instead I said to you, Sabrina, I'm so sorry you're suffering. You're this part of me. I feel your pain. I feel it. I see it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you're suffering. And instead of beating you up, instead of being ashamed of you, instead of making you wrong, instead of wanting to cut you out or drug you, instead of doing that to you, Sabrina, I'm going to love you. And I'm going to let you know that I love you. And I'm going to do whatever I can to share that love with you. And maybe at this point, I'm still mad at you, so I can't hug you, but I'm going to send love to you. I'm going to, in my mind, shower you in a beautiful golden light. I'm going to send the thoughts that are loving and kind to you. When I speak about you, I'm going to speak about you with loving words. And I'm just going to constantly tell you, I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm so sorry. Now, if you were that part of me that's suffering and I said that to you, how would you feel?
I mean, I think I would feel understood and seen, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it feels better, doesn't it, than what I said previously, right? Right.
Yeah.
So, so now I'm working with you, right? Now, instead of my working against you, I'm working with you. And maybe even my next step, I could say, Sabrina, what can I do to help you? How can I help you heal? What I've done, be mad at you, drug you, cut you out, punish you. It's not helped. So, what do you want from me? How can I help you right now feel better? What can I do right now in this very moment? Right. And when we do that and we learn to listen, like truly listen, right? And I think we listen with more than our ears, to listen with your heart, to listen with feeling, to listen with color, to listen with temperature and texture, to listen with a sound, to listen with a taste, right? Because you are part of me and you have access to all the parts of me. So you may want to communicate with me by color. You may not communicate with me by words. You may communicate with me by feeling. You might show me a picture, or you might play a pretty sound, or a very easy and comforting sound, right? And so then I want to give that back to you. I want to give you that experience. So if it's anxiety and we're talking about the anxiety, what if I even said to you, you're part of me that's scared? Because that's what anxiety basically is, right? It's projecting fear, right? You're a part of me that's scared. You may have a very good reason to be scared. What if you're trying to protect me? Now, maybe I don't need protection. Maybe that fear comes from when you were 5 years old and you're still trying to do that. And now, me as the adult, right? Well, I don't, that doesn't work anymore, right? So, what if I went to you, right? And I started working with you and I said, I'm so sorry you're suffering. I know you're trying to protect me. One of the ways you're trying to protect me is when there's a threat. You want me to fight. You want me to flee and run away. You want me to maybe hide or maybe just freeze and act like it's not happening. Right? Isn't that often the trauma response? Fight, flee, freeze, or hide, right? So you're doing that, and I want to get on the plane. But all of a sudden, as the part of me that's suffering, you're saying to me, run away. This is dangerous. right? Because maybe when you were a kid, you had an experience that flying was scary. And the adult self is saying to that part, and what if instead of letting you run the shop, what if instead I said, I see you. I'm so sorry. I know you want to run away right now. And we are going to get on that plane because what's on the other side is so amazing. We're going to go see friends. We're going to go see family. We're going to go on adventures. It's going to be so good, Sabrina. It's going to be so good. So, how can I help you? I appreciate you're trying to protect me. How you're doing it doesn't work anymore. I hear you. And often, when we recognize that this part's trying to protect us in its way, fight, flee, freeze, hide, it's trying to keep us safe, it often goes, oh, okay. All right. Right. And then when we take it that next step and say, so how can I help you feel safe and get on that plane? Right. So I'm changing the conversation because when we're in that experience of the fear, it's often, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? I don't want to feel this way. Why am I feeling this way? I'm so mad at you for feeling this way. Right. Now I'm saying, I understand your feeling. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. And how can I help you do what you really want to do, which is get on the plane and go explore the world? How can I help you do that? So now again, I step into my power. I'm not the victim to my anxiety, right? I'm not being controlled by the anxiety. I'm recognizing it. I'm seeing it for what it is. I'm saying thank you to it. I appreciate what you're doing. And now I want to work with you. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I love that frame because it's all about identifying that part of yourself that just feels like they need to almost like scream at you because you're not getting the point and you should be afraid, and sort of talking to it and calming it down as if it were a child, that is saying, "No, don't go there because we've never been. We don't know what's waiting for us there. So it's just safer for us to stay here." But you almost need to parent that little child, right?
In a very
And you,
real way. We need to go to these parts that are suffering. We need to be like a parent and be kind to them, listen to them. When a kid is having a temper tantrum, and remember, we may be adults, but we're really not that different. Human beings are human beings, and adult human beings have temper tantrums. They may do it in a different way, right? They may learn that rolling around on the floor isn't getting them what they want, but they still will have a temper tantrum, right? So when you go to that part and you treat it in a way that is kind and respectful, it will listen and it will work with you. I've never, ever, and I've been in practice for almost 20 years. I've never had a client, thousands of clients, that it did not work on.
I love that. So
Mhm.
one thing that I've read and I found it very, very helpful, and I think it very much matches with your process of dealing with anxiety, is that if we think of the top athletes before they perform, they have what they call nerves, right? Or they have that sort of rush of adrenaline. So the same bodily sensations, but to someone that's a pro athlete, it sort of primes them for giving
Mhm.
their best. And they're feeling those feelings in their body and they're saying, well, this is my body getting ready to swim or to run as fast as I can, or to really be my best self in the coming minutes or hours that I really need to be at my best. And often enough, when we're not top athletes, we were supposed to go on stage, for instance, give a big presentation, and we feel those feelings and we're thinking, oh, damn it, that's so terrible that I have those feelings because it means I'm not prepared. It means I'm going to do an awful job. And the
So
key
that's your
is,
fear right there.
there we go.
That
Yeah.
that right there is the fear, right? It's that saying it means this. Is that true?
I don't think it is.
There you go.
And I
right?
think that's the beauty of it, right? Like the body gives you some cues, but how you read into those cues, that's entirely up to you. And the feeling can be the same across the whole population, but some will choose to see it, oh, this is my body getting ready to perform its best. And others will see it, oh my God, I'm a fraud, and everybody is about to see that. So the way we're looking at it is very different.
I love the way you framed that, that this is the way my body is getting prepared. I've never had anybody do that, so I really like that. I have people say, oh, this is my body. I have a big competition, and this part of me is trying to protect me from failure. It's trying to say, well, if I don't compete, then I haven't failed. I didn't come in third place or fifth place. I didn't fail. I just didn't compete. Right. So it's that fear that is trying to protect you from maybe not living up to your potential. Right. So to go to that fear and to be able to say, oh, this is me getting ready is great. Like, this is, oh, I'm just going through that process that I do of getting a little fearful, right? And I like it. It gives me adrenaline, it gets me excited. Like, what are all the good things that this is actually doing for you, right? To recognize, oh, that fear, that pumped a little more adrenaline into your blood, didn't it? That adrenaline is going to make you go a lot faster, isn't it? Right? That adrenaline is amazing. People can lift whole cars off of people when adrenaline comes in. It's not their muscle strength, it's the adrenaline, right? So I really like how you framed that. That's awesome.
I love that. And I think it's very much, our understanding of it, how we see it. That's very important. And I tend to look at it whenever I'm fearful of something that's related to my performance. I will think, whoa, it means I really care about doing a good job.
Exactly.
So I try to reframe it as in a way that almost makes me proud of having it and makes me proud of myself.
Yes.
Because not to get into a therapy session, but I did
No, that's
struggle
great.
with,
You're saying thank you to it, right?
yeah,
You're saying
exactly.
thank you. Oh, there it is. Thank you. There it
Yeah,
is. You care. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, right? Thank
exactly.
you. This is good. Good for
Exactly.
you. I love that. It's just I mean, I've heard similar things, but I just love the way you're phrasing that. It's really nice.
It took a few years, I'll say that.
Right?
So, Peter, I've absolutely loved our conversation and understanding more about the other side, but also about why we have those feelings and those feelings of anger, feelings of anxiety, and how can we not just deal with them, but how can we accept them and make them, part of us and be kind and loving to them, but also recognizing that we're not what has happened to us. We're not the experiences that we've had, but we're our own self. And I always think it's very refreshing when I hear that. So, for anybody that has enjoyed our conversation today and they want to find you and they want to find out more about your work, where can they go to?
So the primary place is my website, which is convergencehealing.com. That's my brand. And I'll spell it. It's CONVERGENCE healing. Convergence, like coming together, convergencehealing.com. My first book you can see up here. I don't know if you can see that. That was my first book with Simon and Schuster. It was called Convergence Healing, and that's about loving your pain, so they could connect with me through there. My anxiety book, Billy and the Anxiety Monster, is about loving the anxiety. That book's been so successful and fun. I've turned it into a coloring book and an activity book. And my next book that's going to come out probably at the end of 25 or 26 is called When Happiness is Work, and that's about loving your depression. So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I'm exploring TikTok. That's new to me. I have lots of videos on YouTube. So you can go to my channel. It's also Convergence Healing. And I work with people all over the world. So you can connect with me pretty much through social media and through my website.